dive into the details of the upcoming season, shall we? Let's start with some of the roster notes. The taxi squad, 4 to 6 players each per team that they can carry extra to travel based on. You can never have enough depth, right, in the NHL, especially with the circumstances we're dealing with right now. Now, between active rosters and the taxi squad, teams are required to carry at least 3 goalies at all times. And, you know, we hope we don't need to dive into these resources, but it feels like based on some of the other leagues that we've seen, you know, like we said, that roster needs to be expanded for times like this.
Yeah, and, you know, it really is interesting for the AHL player, that developing player who's in the American Hockey League. We don't exactly know for sure what's going to happen at that level. So if and when they do get going, now they're going to be missing some key players from their roster, because you have to figure the top players at the AHL level are going to be part of these taxi squads for the 31 respective teams. So those players, those guys need to play.
Development.
And it is really a tricky situation because, yes, they'll be practicing, but if all goes well, they'll just be practicing and they won't play. So it's a tough year for guys like that. We don't think about those players. We think about the star players and the established players in the National Hockey League, but where do they come from? They're developed. They come through junior. They come through the American Hockey League. They come through the European leagues. And if those leagues aren't playing, or if they're playing a really a condensed schedule at best, and if the best players are now just practicing and not really playing competitively, you really worry about their development moving forward. But it is something they need to do because of the circumstances we're in. We've seen it play out with Major League Baseball, with the NFL, where guys come now. We're not going to be in a bubble this go-round, right? We're going to be traveling. Things are going to happen. There are going to be positive tests along the way. Teams are going to have to respond to that, and that is why they've done this. But I do worry about some of these younger guys, bubble players that need to be playing. They're practicing, which is good. But it does hurt their development not to be playing, at least in the American Hockey League.
NHL per diems, though, on those road trips. They can look forward to that. Speaking of money and salaries, here are some of the details we have on the notes this season. No proration of salaries. Good for your player. You're getting paid for 82 despite playing 56. Entry-level slide for rookies, so it drops from that 10-game max to 7 games. February 11, that is the signing deadline for Group 2 RFAs, and March 12th. Circle that one on the calendar as well. Players on one-year deals can sign extensions. No movement clauses will be extended through July after the Seattle expansion.
Yeah, and, you know, those are like little notes, but they're important because we just talked about Matthew Barzal. Let's say for some reason he cannot come to an agreement with the Islanders, and Islander fans, I'm not saying that's going to happen, so I think it will happen. But if for some reason, we saw it play out with William Nylander a couple of years ago with the Toronto Maple Leafs, and went right up to, I think it was December 1st, and he eventually signed. So that's the importance of that date, that if you have a Group 2 guy that doesn't sign prior to that date, he won't be able to play after that. So that's an important date. Usually we don't have too many guys play up to that. We'll see if that's the case now. And then the other thing with moving the number back for younger players, entry-level players to come in and give them a couple of games and see where they're at. It was 10, but now with less games it'll be 7. And I'll be curious again to see how that works, because you're burning a year on a guy's contract if you play him more than 7. Now all of a sudden you have a challenge there.
Exactly.
So you do that in this circumstance.
Yeah,
I would think you probably wouldn't. You're not even trying to fill, like for teams that are struggling, you're not even trying to fill the building by showcasing a really talented young player.
Exactly, yeah. And these are some of those subtle details that when both sides are talking and we're wondering how far apart they are, they just have to kind of, you know, comb these other details at the end. These are some of those subtle details that they're talking about.
A lot of
playoff details. This is going to be fun. Different format. Let's take a look at some of the notes on the playoff details for the upcoming season. The top 4 teams in each division qualify for the playoffs. 16 teams is normal. 4 rounds, best of 7 series. Nothing changes as far as that goes. Intra-division play in the first 2 rounds. Each division produces a champion to play for the Stanley Cup semifinal. Teams are then reseeded in the semifinals, so we could get some different matchups there based on the regular season points total. So 56-game sprint to the playoffs. In the playoffs, subtle tweaks look a little different this year.
Yeah, they do. And if you ever wondered what the original 6 looked like back in the golden age, so to speak, of hockey, you're going to find it out a little bit in each of those divisions. We're going to have 4 kind of original 6, original 8, original 7. They'll all play amongst one another. There'll be a lot of games that they play, and then they will play in division through to the semifinal. Then one winner will come out of each division. They will reseed at that point. So that's interesting to me because a team in the West might play a team in the East in one semifinal just based on points because you're doing a total reseed there. So that's kind of interesting. It's not a conference basis. So you could end up having the two best teams playing in the Stanley Cup final, which is something that we don't always get because of the way we do it. And also, this is kind of reminiscent for older fans, too, of the days in the 80s, I guess, with the Smythe division, the Patrick division, the Norris division. You'd get a lot of those division games. The teams would play through their divisions until you'd get to the semifinal, and then you'd start to cross over out of that. So different situations bring about different circumstances, and I think this makes the most sense to me. It was one that you could pretty easily come to.
Yeah, short-term fix. So 56 games, January 13th, sprint to the end, and away we go for Lord Stanley's Cup at the end.